Good morning, my movie-loving brothers and sisters. How you guys doing on this Tuesday morning? Thank you for joining us on the Screen Talk Live YouTube channel where we talk about all things movie, TV, screen-related news. I'm, of course, your humble host, Keith Toothman, and I am joined today by filmmaker, writer, director, just all-around great person, Shane Wallace. Shane, how are you doing on this lovely Tuesday morning?
Hey, good morning, everybody, and, another great fall day. I think we both love fall weather quite a bit, so it's great to be up this early talking about stuff we love.
That's right. Well, don't forget, if you guys are new around here, hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you can have your movie news when you need it, where you need it. And we'll be doing this as much as we can, 5 days a week. I think we're going to do 10 o'clock all week this week at least, since we're just getting up and going. So the way we like to do things around here, we like to kick it off with a few main topics. Our first main topic today that we're going to talk about is something that is near and dear to me and Shane's hearts. So, as you guys may be aware, last week Coolio passed away. But some cool news about it is that two things that I've learned from Coolio's passing is, A, there's a Futurama revival. I did not know this until right now. So it's pretty cool that Futurama's coming back. When I was a kid, I loved Futurama. I at some point when I was young, I liked The Simpsons and things like that. But as I got older, I really, really liked Futurama. It was like what I would say Family Guy is for a lot of people today. That's what Futurama was for me. So the cool thing is that it seems as though this is coming to us from Variety, is that Coolio was able to record some of his lines for his character, Kwanzaa. So pretty cool to see that he's able to get that, and we have some, something to remember him by and something to celebrate him with. And I really can't wait to see this. I'm looking forward to this. I love Futurama. Shane, I think you're a fan of Futurama. How do you feel about Futurama?
Futurama is one of the greatest television shows of all time. The humor is exceptional because it's very highbrow humor. Since it's rooted in the future. There's just mathematical jokes, science jokes. It's so good, and I'm a big fan.
And I know you're a big fan of Coolio, right?
I mean, how can I not? I'm a kid of the '90s. So, you had to be. It was everywhere in the air. It's definitely summer. You start getting, your groove on, and of course, who's not a big fan of Coolio?
Now it wasn't like a huge role, but I do remember him like in a few of the seasons. Like I think he didn't come in until season 4, and just a couple small little cameo roles, which I'm sure is what this will be. It's not like he's gonna be part of the group or anything like that, but. It is cool. It's always cool to see, kind of like when Ray Liotta passed recently, and I was telling you, he had that final performance on Blackbird, which he was playing this father dying of cancer, and it was almost poetic in a way, but it was also just kind of cool to see him one last time. And for Coolio, we never really seen him, but we always heard him, and in this case, we'll get to hear him one last time. What do you think about that, Shane?
It couldn't be for a better show. Again, Futurama takes place in the future, and so it's kind of cool that it lives on right into the 31st century. I'm also a big fan of any time these big name celebrities play characters outside themselves on these shows, which I always thought was really cool with Coolio with Futurama, and the fact that they're bringing it back. I mean, how can you not be excited and still have, one last performance, from a character that was created in the original run of the series? I mean, how can you not love that? That's just serendipitous, and if there is, like you said, a silver lining to any of this, tragedy, because anytime we lose someone so young, I mean, I think he's only like, 15, 20 years older than I am, so it definitely puts things in perspective, and it makes that, make sure that you tell your loved ones that you love them, and, enjoy every day.
Yeah, for sure. But for me, I almost want to see Coolio on Futurama with his head in a jar. What do you think about that?
I had that thought, when I first heard about this. That was the first thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Is, perhaps he's playing himself, and we'll get to see with the head in the jar. We already have a lot of deceased characters in Futurama, but were preserved because of their
right. I could see him doing concerts still, just the heads on a stool.
Going on tour.
Right.
Yeah,
Definitely. I would enjoy that for sure.
I think Coolio would enjoy that.
For sure. But again, it's cool. It's always an honor to get to hear or see these guys one last time. Like I was telling you before the show, when I was a real young kid, and I mean 5, 6 years old, I mean Coolio was like, what Drake is today to kids. We love Coolio was the shit, and so it's too bad that he's passed, but it's cool that we get to honor him, we get to see him again, and I'm looking forward to this. I love Futurama. It's a Hulu revival. I have Hulu, and I'll definitely check it out when it comes out. That's for sure. So what about you guys? Let us know what you guys think down in the comment section below, what you think about Coolio's passing and the idea of him, getting to record some lines before and still being able to, have his presence in the revival of the Futurama series. So let us.
My voice is too low.
So let us know what you think in the comments section down below, guys. So we're going to be moving on to our second main topic of the day. Our second main topic. So Shane, we haven't had a lot of time to discuss anything like this, but a few months ago, I don't know if you've heard, but Will Smith slapped Chris Rock.
I think we all heard the slap heard around the world.
The slap heard round the world. It's the Ray Finkel of slaps. The slap heard round the world. And, I love Will Smith. Who doesn't love Will Smith? I mean, he's a likable guy. Look, I'm not going to judge him off of one mistake. We all make mistakes. I'm not here to judge him on it, but the world has. And as slowly as this has happened, the dust is starting to settle, and we're seeing what's going on. And for a while, see this movie, this Emancipation movie that he has with Apple, and it's been sitting on the shelf for some months now because at the end of the day, these places, and it's more than Apple, it's more than Emancipation. There's a couple other films too that other studios are sitting on the shelf because at the end of the day, they're worried, of the reception that they'll get, the backlash that they get, the things that they might have to deal with. So, I guess my question is Shane, first off, what were your thoughts quickly on the slap and what happened with the Oscars thing and Will Smith?
I thought it was hilarious, honestly. I mean, I couldn't stop watching that. He really reared back and just let it happen.
Yeah, he did.
But, I think people want to be upset about this rather than really care because Will Smith and Chris Rock have been friends longer than most of us have been Will Smith and Chris Rock fans.
Right, correct.
So give me a break. Have you not ever, I mean, again, we're all different people, but sometimes bros get into shit. And, obviously Chris Rock said something about his wife. Usually that's going to offend somebody. I'm sure, and I think they already hashed it out already and things are cool.
It seems like that it's been worked out at least to an extent.
So, again, I think people want to be upset because that's why you tune into the Oscars. And, oh, my God, what's going to happen in Oscars 2023? stay tuned because it's got to now one up the Will Smith slap.
And I don't know if that's ever gonna happen. but moving on from the slap itself. So we know what's going on with Will Smith. We know what's going on with his movies and the things he was in. Regardless of how we feel about it, the fact of the matter is the studios have been shelving these movies. And now we found out today, this is coming to us this is coming to us from the Hollywood Reporter, but this is shocking to me that finally they've made a decision, at least Apple has with this, that they're going to put this out in theaters December 2nd. And what's not surprising about it, because you haven't seen the trailer for this, I'm sure, but this movie looks great, like in an Oscar way, and you can tell that they want this in contention. It's kind of a little bit of a down year, I would say, in the Oscars category right now. The best actor is wide open. Best picture is wide open. I mean, I still think Everything Everywhere All at Once is the best film that I've seen all year. But man, this looks really good. And if it can be in contention with for best actor or best movie or best director, then why not put it out? But then the other question is, Shane, would they let Will Smith be nominated for an Academy Award after he's been now banned from attending at least the live show he can't attend? Do you think the Academy would still be willing to nominate him for let's say best actor?
Are they still willing to nominate Roman Polanski for best director? Are they willing to nominate Woody Allen for best director?
That's a good point.
You know, if the performance is on the screen, if he's banned from this show, then they have nothing to worry about. But I think that especially if the Oscars want to continue to have any sort of, clout or anything like that, I mean, it has to be based on the performances. And, if it becomes political and you're not able to, nominate him because of something that he did, not on the screen, but in person, I think that's, not what the Oscars are about.
I agree 100%. But again, still shocking that they're gonna put this out. I'm not sure what kind of reception this receives from fans right now. I don't know if how fans feel about it. Again, I'm a pretty laid back dude, so it's easy for me to forgive. Like I said, if this was a pattern maybe of behavior that we had seen from Will Smith, maybe then I would maybe judge him a little bit in a different light. But again, I know we live in a world of 1,000 things good, one wrong, and that's all we remember is the wrong. And it really is. And I don't want to be one of those people. But the world is those people. And I'm curious of how they will react to this. Shane, how do you think that fans will react to, and keep in mind, I'm asking you this under the idea that we know before the slap, everybody loved Will Smith. So now with the slap, post-slap, Emancipation coming out, how do you think fans will respond?
Two things. I think fans and people in general just have too short of attention span now. It coming out, this film, Emancipation, coming out in December, I think by that point, people are going to want Will Smith back in their life. Also, I think it's a great opportunity for this film. December 2nd is a great release date, especially for an Oscar film.
Definitely.
So I think it's honestly going to work out in their favor. And then the last thing is that, come on, did Will not mess up to the Banks family, and we all forgave him? How many shitty things did Will do on that show? Seriously, I went back and rewatched it, and Will's not a great guy. He's not the guy I remember growing up. Like, I wanted to be like Will. Like,
for sure.
So cool.
Who didn't?
Now when
who didn't want to be like Will?
I'm just like, this is not appropriate, dude.
Yeah.
But that's what was great about these shows is that by the end of the episode, Will came to terms.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I'm
he
out
grew
of
up
line.
a little bit.
Exactly.
He grew up a little bit.
And I think that
And we all did.
Yes.
We all grew up
and
a
I
little
think
bit.
the same thing's going to happen in this situation. We all love Will Smith, and you're right. We all make mistakes. And I think at the end of the day, we'll suck it up, and we'll be like Uncle Phil and be like, you should have done better, but we still love you.
You know what? I think that's a great point. And I hope that's how people react because, again, I love Will Smith. I would hate to see, him not be able to, God forbid, give an Academy-level performance and not be able to be nominated or something like that would be terrible. And again, for me, I could care not about the slap. It doesn't matter to me. But I am looking forward to seeing this movie. Like I said, it looks really good. I want to check it out. Shane, I know you haven't had the chance to see the trailer at all for it, but I know you like Will Smith at least. I mean,
absolutely.
It may have been a while since we've seen what me and you would consider a great Will Smith movie. But would you watch Emancipation?
Emancipation looks incredible. A couple of reasons. You know me. I love period dramas. I love them. I think that's, one of the main genres of cinema and why movies should be made because, it gives us a chance to relive the past. And then the other thing, I think Will has, maybe had a couple of hiccups in his career of late. And because of that, I think he's tried too hard to go back on what made Will Smith famous, and that was his sci-fi. And I feel like it's his sci-fi movies that have kind of fallen short of late. And that's kind of why people...
Yeah, After Earth. Some has some bad ones.
So I think the fact that we're about to see an amazing Will Smith performance in a non-sci-fi film, and a film that's going to be taken seriously, is a perfect career choice.
Right. Get us back to that Ali,
Exactly.
Make us look. That's the thing is that I think if it's, again, back to something we say in sports often, and is winning cures everything. Mm-hmm. And I mean, at the end of the day, if Will Smith kills this movie's great and people love it. Like you said, they'll forget about the slap. They'll forget about, we also live in a world of, what have you done for me lately? Mm-hmm. And right now, again, what's the last great or even Will Smith movie you've seen, really? It's been a few years since I've seen a Will Smith movie that, I would even want to watch.
Hey, he's been killing it production-wise.
Yeah, hey, he's definitely one of the hardest working dudes in Hollywood. That's for sure. He has been since he was a teenager, man, like a young kid. And there's no denying that. That's for sure. And again, we love Will Smith. I'll probably check out Emancipation. It's probably going to come out on Apple TV Plus, and thanks to Lucas, we'll be able to check that out. And and it's not normally, I would say, it's not one of those movies that I would look for, but I am curious, what this looks like. The trailers do look good. The even just, I mean, the still images, this still, look at it.
The production quality.
It looks great. It looks so well made. You can tell that a lot of money was spent on it, and I mean, it's gonna be good, but again, it's too bad that sometimes that more or less the drama around, Will Smith and these things are the topic at hand instead of, the greatness of Will Smith and because not only that, as you and I know, Shane, making a movie, it takes a lot of people. There's lots of people involved, and this movie is set on shelves now for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, and I'm sure there was lots of people involved that were telling their friends and their family, and I was in this movie with Will Smith. And then all of a sudden you find out, maybe it might not ever even come out, but at least we're not there. We know now it's coming out, so at least we'll get a chance to see it. So, guys, let us know what you guys think. Have you guys seen the trailers for Emancipation? What is your guys' thoughts on Will Smith, slapping people up? Throw it down in the comment section below and let us know. So now our third main topic here that we are going to talk about is, and I know that Shane has just seen the trailer for this because we just watched it, and that's Black Panther 3. Black Panther 2. The trailer just came out for it yesterday, and the second trailer. And God, it looks really good. It looks very well made. It looks so Ryan Coogler. It looks just like everything he's done. The set design looks beautiful. The costumes look amazing. The performances look good. There's that there's that the voice of his mom that's like voicing over it, and she's like whispering, like, we hear your whispers that our king is dead and that it's time for you, that this is a good time for you to attack. And she's like saying that to his face, right there in his face. And we see that scene, and it's just like, ooh, it's just so good. And I love the bringing in Namor is really cool. It looks like a lot of fun. Shane, I know you haven't seen the first Black Panther. I know you're going to get around to seeing it sometime soon because you're super stoked to see this one, it seems like. But what'd you think of the trailer that you've seen today?
The trailer looked incredible. And, yeah, when Black Panther came out, that was like right after I got burned out of Marvel. And I just didn't want any, superheroes. But I have to say the appeal with Black Panther and why I need to just see it. I need to just watch it because I am super excited about this one is Black Panther is the only Marvel thing that I've seen where I look up and I'm like, wow, that doesn't look like, Age of Ultron. That doesn't look like Thor because, that's the appeal of Marvel. I'm not knocking that at all because, they've created this rich universe and it is amazing. It's just a lot of content that I haven't kept up with. But Black Panther definitely sticks out. It's like this jewel within it. It's like, oh my gosh, this is stunning. Not that the other stuff isn't. It's just
right.
I think because it's set more in reality and in traditional, you have a lot of African roots with
yes,
the costume, obviously the characters.
Yes.
And, you can see the tradition within, and that gives it lineage,
Yep.
where it seems generational.
Yeah, it feels
Iron
real.
Man can only exist right now.
Yeah.
But Wakanda has existed for millennia.
Right.
So, and you really feel that richness, and I think it's that draws us to Wakanda into the Black Panther series, kind of like Lord of the Rings. You can feel the denseness of these characters and their world, and you totally get that from the trailer. And I agree, seeing Namor, this is why I have to definitely see Black Panther 2. I've been waiting for Namor for a long time, not only because he's such a cool character, but he is the quintessential Marvel character. To me, what makes a Marvel character is someone that's eternally flawed and suffering. And that's exactly who Namor is. He's always suffering for his people and trying to do more, and sometimes is the villain. Sometimes
and you see that in this trailer.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. So it's about time they've gotten to Namor, and I think it's really cool that they tied it into the Black Panther universe because I think one of the downsides to Marvel is there's just so many characters. So for Namor to pop up in an Avengers movie where he's sharing the screen with 20 other Avengers characters, there's just not a lot of time to develop. But it looks like, they're giving them that time in Black Panther 2.
Yeah, it looks like it could be almost a Namor movie in a way. Like it's kind of a shared movie. And it makes sense because Black Panther's dead. T'Challa's gone. We don't have a Black Panther. And so this could be kind of Namor's movie. I also seen, people's theories about maybe that Wakanda is trying to get him to take the throne or something like that, which would be cool too. Mm-hmm. Either way, I mean, again, like you said, it's cool to have Namor, and you can really feel that there's a burden that he has that without even knowing much, you feel that weight of knowing that there's a duty that he has to do. And this isn't about, because Namor in the comics isn't really a villain or a hero. He's kind of right. And this is
that Magneto character.
Exactly. This is about, again, about duty, about honor. This is just what I have to do for my people. And it's not about being bad or good to him, and I think those, like you said, those kind of characters are always the best. Those are, we can relate to them a lot. And the thing that I love the most about Black Panther 2, especially the trailer, the second trailer, is, again, like you said, all the the costuming, it feels so real. What separates that first Black Panther movie from the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the fact that it is like that. It's very grounded and believable, and where, not that other Marvel movies can't be or haven't been, but this was in a new way that was very culturally significant. And we just seen that again in Miss Marvel. I know you haven't had a chance to check it out, but I explained to you that, what really drew me into that was the idea of, now I'm learning all this culture that I knew nothing about. I knew nothing about the partition. You know, I knew nothing about, you know, the Pakistanis being kicked out of where they lived and these kind of things. But to learn that and why they wear the things they wear and why they do the things they do and the way what family means to them was just so cool because, you know, we're here in America where culture is really non-existent to an extent. We're kind of a melding pot of everyone else's cultures, and so you get what you can, and I've never really had the chance to be around anyone to understand a culture like what was in Miss Marvel. So I was glad that we got to see it, and I'm glad that Black Panther did it, and it looks like Black Panther 2 is going to bring a lot more of that, especially when you take, like, for example, just an example, in the trailer, they're all wearing white at his funeral, which is like the opposite of what we would do, but it's culturally significant again. And I hear a bunch of fans saying they're all gonna wear white to the premiere.
That's cool.
I'm down. Let's do it. Let's wear all white to the premiere. That would be fun. And you know, the thing is with Black Panther 2 with me is that, you know, I will never forget when some things, and we're all like this as humans, when some things happen. You know, I remember where I was and what I was doing exactly when someone texted me that Michael Jackson passed away. Like, I remember it so vividly. And the same thing with Chadwick Boseman. I remember immediately, like, not expecting to, but just crying and thinking, well, first of all, I mean, the guy's, you know, 8 years older than me. That's not very far from where I'm at, man. I mean, and then second of all,
perspective.
Yeah, for sure. And second of all, to think that he had really just come into this, and we had really just got to understand how great and how talented of an actor that Chadwick Boseman was, and then right at that moment, he was stripped from us. And he was a very hardworking guy too, and the thing that I want to see with Black Panther the most is I just want to see the character of T'Challa be honored. I want to see Chadwick Boseman be honored. I believe that it probably should have been recasted, but I also understand that it kind of felt just too soon.
Way too soon.
Yeah, it was just too raw. It was too rough. You know, I remember when Elise, you know, my wife came in as I was crying on the couch. She's like, "What's wrong?" And I remember looking at her and, like, smiling and saying, "Our king died." And I know that, you know, as a fan, though, he was our king. He was the king of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He was the king of Wakanda. He was righteous. He was good. He was poetic. He was all of these things that was so beautiful. And that's what we love about the character of T'Challa. And to think that, you know, now we have to move forward, not only without Chadwick Boseman, which sucks in itself, but now we have to move forward without the character of T'Challa.
Well, you know, that's what's so great about cinema, though, is we can always return to these characters, even if the person playing them has already passed.
Definitely.
You know, that's why, you know, we should enjoy every performance as it's the last, because you never know. It's such a tragic world. And like you said, 8 years older than you, and, you know, you just started a family. You know, I can't even imagine. And so, yeah, it's tragic, but I do feel like from this trailer, they definitely have honored the legacy, taken the time, like you said, with the funeral. They don't even need that in this movie. You know, if you think about it, you could easily cut that out of this story. It probably isn't necessary, but you could tell that it was a big deal, that they want to honor this memory and this legacy. And I'm really glad that they are taking this time to, you know, make sure that it's acknowledged within the film, and we can all sit there in the theater and have that moment. You know, we'll all be there silently.
For sure.
And I'm sure universally we'll all be able to share in this moment of silence.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, you know, the director Ryan Coogler said, you know, the guy that directed Creed and Fruitvale Station, he said that, you know, and I imagine, you know, if I'm sitting on the couch crying about Chadwick Boseman, how do you think it affected him? You know, he worked with this guy. This was his guy, you know, and he probably expected to continue to work with this guy. And so, and I bet they were pretty close. And so to have that taken away is gotta suck. But he stated that, you know, one of his real main goal of the movie was to do that, was to honor Chadwick Boseman, and I believe that it will do that for sure. I really feel that way. You know, as needless as the funeral scene is, it is one of those scenes that's gonna touch us all.
That's probably the best scene in the movie. I think.
That's why it's so integral and so necessary, because maybe part of us hasn't let all that out, hasn't, you know, really dealt with those emotions, you know, or sometimes for people like me, it's just a rehashing of them, you know, it's just, damn, there they are again. There's that feeling. Remember what happened? Remember this? And it just sometimes it hurts, you know. Like I said, when you really start to like these guys too, and they're really talented and they're playing characters that you love, you know, you don't want to see these guys go away. You definitely don't want to see them pass away. So it's a really unfortunate situation, but I'm super excited for Black Panther too. Shane, you gonna go out in theaters to see this? What do you think?
You know, now that we're doing a show, I kind of have to. With Marvel movies, it definitely is more of a theater experience, right? So
For sure.
you know, and I know that you'll be going, so it'll be a lot of fun.
And what are your, just real quickly, what are your thoughts on, you know, of the idea of, because I haven't had time to even talk to you about this or ask you anything about this, but what are your thoughts on the idea of the choice to not recast? I know it seemed like when I brought it up that you thought it was a bit too soon too, but, you know, given the circumstances, what do you think the right decision was?
You know me, I always think the right decision, of course, we're talking about a comic series that's had many Black Panthers over the time, over many years, so you could easily replace
For
them.
sure.
But I always feel like, you know, this,
But not many T'Challas.
no, not at all.
You know, one T'Challa.
But I mean, we've already had how many Bruce Waynes?
Yeah, true.
But I feel like it should always be in the service of the story, whatever makes the best story. And, you know, this might sound very jaded and mean, but honestly, you know, tragedy always serves best.
Yeah, it makes the best stories.
So, you know, the fact that you know, it does, I mean, obviously I'm stuttering here, so you know, I don't want to say anything incorrectly, but it sucks that, you know, I'm not going to say they took advantage of this situation.
Sure.
But it certainly benefits the story in the Marvel Universe only because it's going to create good drama.
Sure. But like you always say, life is art. And at the end of the day, you know, I heard another pundit that me and you know very well, and he was saying, you know, this was a couple years ago when they decided not to recast, is that he was saying, you know, make it real. Make it, he died of cancer. And when you do that, it adds a realness to it.
You just mentioned Ray Liotta and his final performance.
Right. It adds this, you know, verisimilitude to it, this realness to it that hits you in a completely different way.
You know, over the years, there have been so many stories about actors and their final role when people didn't know it was going to be their final
Right. Oh, yeah, for sure.
know, but you could tell that they were going to do to the very end what they love to do.
Right.
And, you know, so, you know, you have a lot of these roles where you look back and they're just like, God, they were, you know, died, you know, just 3 months later, or died 3 weeks later. It's like, how could they even be on set?
Right.
I can't imagine the
Given
pain.
this great performance.
No kidding. And, you know, not even all of them are great. You know, it is October. We just watched a film called Dead and Buried from '81. And it has Charlie and the Chocolate Factory's grandpa in it, and it was his final performance of all time before he passed. And
How long was that after Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
I think Charlie and Chocolate Factory was like 71.
Okay,
so probably like 10 years later.
So he was an old
guy.
Yeah,
he 10 years after that.
Grandpa lived a while.
And you know, I enjoyed it immensely, and it was not a great movie. But his performance in it, especially knowing that he was going to pass of cancer in 3 months, is just like, why are you doing this, dude?
Right.
You know, I don't. So you got to, at the end of the day, commend these artists because they're putting their life out there on the line. You know, if all these actors would have stayed in bed or to the hospital, you know, maybe they could have eked out 6 more months or whatever. Who knows? But they were like, I'm going to live my life.
Yep.
I'm
die doing what I love.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so at the end of the day, you know, we get to honor that as well because, the Black Panther series is going to continue, and even though they're not going to mention or T'Challa is not going to be within the. I mean, there could be. Who knows?
Yeah,
there could be a
right.
flight. So
Sure.
anything's on. But
Yeah.
the fact is that the legacy is within that film, and will continue to be within these films.
For sure.
In Black Panther 3, even in another Thor or whatever, there will always be. He existed within this universe, and there will always be that that lineage that will always exist, and that's what's really cool.
Right, and like I said, I'm really excited to see it. For me this year, the Marvel slate has been, oh man, it's just been really up and down and hit and miss, and especially on the movie side. I mean, we had Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. It's okay. We had Thor. It's okay. And so it's going to be really nice to have this kind of palate cleanser to get back to feeling good about Marvel, to get back to feeling good about the movies specifically that they're putting out, because, those cost us even more money to go out and see and spend time away from our homes and things like that. So, but I'm looking forward to see it. We'll probably go out and see it in theaters. Yeah, why not? I mean, we could set up a time to sometime check out Black Panther 1. I love that movie. I'd watch it again. It's very well made too, man. Like, I think you would like it. I told you that 3 or 4 years ago when it came out. But I totally understand the getting burnt out on Marvel thing, because I'm slowly getting there. And I think it just, for me now, like when I first got on board, and when you first got on board, it was like 1-2 movies a year.
Yeah.
And then when I first got on board, it was 3. And I was like, oh, this is cool, and it almost felt like not enough. Like, you just get like 3 months and then you'd be like, okay, here's another one. But it was almost seemed like you needed 4, and then all of a sudden we get, we got 10 movies a year, and 10 Disney Plus series a year. We have, 4 movies sometimes per year. And I think it just becomes a little too washed out for me.
It is a lot of content. I think my problem, why I got burnt out with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, is it got too close to the Marvel Comics universe. And, I got burnt out with comics multiple times with Marvel doing the same thing. And it's like, oh, I'll watch something. It's like, oh, who's that character? Oh, well, you had to watch, this Disney Plus series, or you had to watch this movie, and they were introduced to that, but they appear in this, but they'll have their own series here, but they're a part of it just became so interconnected to where you had to watch everything, or I felt like I had to watch nothing at that point.
Yeah, and it has in a way become that way, and that was your fear of going into WandaVision, Your fear was
so self-contained. Excellent.
But your fear was valid. And as we got closer to the end, it felt more and more like you what you thought was going to be true, which was, you're going to need to come out and see Doctor Strange 2 now to really finish this amazing story that we've gotten. And thankfully, it didn't end up that way. But it is like I said, it's just becoming washed out. And then you do things where, you're introducing 2, 3, 4 characters, new characters that are, pivotal characters in one movie or in one series, and I just don't know how it all connects too, because at the end of the day, the amount of people that watch a Disney Plus Marvel show to the amount of people that go out and see a Marvel movie is astronomically different. Very few people, a small percentage of the people that are watching the Disney Plus shows are going out to the theaters. So if that's the case, then how do you even bring up, the Disney Plus series is in the movies? Because you're only appealing to the smallest common denominator at that point.
So many people.
Yeah, exactly. So and as we go on and on, now I guess the idea would be, right, if you're Disney, the idea would be to get everybody to watch your streaming app and go see the movies there, go see the shows there. And I think, eventually over time we could see something like that. We could see where more people and those numbers kind of even out a little bit more. But as of right now, they're just so different that it seems all weird and convoluted. And then you want to make connections where they may not be making them, but they're kind of like, hinting at them just to keep you, feeling like it is connected. Kind of like they used to do with the old Marvel Netflix shows and stuff. They'd show, like in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., there's a shot where, there's a big container they use to like a holding cell. And on the side of it, there's this big punch mark in it. And they're like, yeah, that was when the big green guy was in here.
Even though you'll never see him on the show.
You can't even say the name.
Yeah.
You got to say the big green guy.
That's so funny.
And to me, like, to me, that's cool in a way, but if you're really gonna connect it all, then connect it all. Don't give me this little the big green guy was here.
Well, that's
thing.
all tied up in legal stuff. So, and you know how that works. So eventually, Disney will get all that ironed up, and they'll get everything under their umbrella, and they'll be able to say the Hulk and everything. My biggest thing is just that it's trying to be way too appealing to everybody and inclusive, meaning character inclusive. Like, how many characters can we bring in, and how do they all wrap up? That at the end of the day, I'd much rather have just a good self-contained story. And the biggest, example to me was that New Mutants movie. I love that movie. I thought that was great. And, and we'll never have a sequel to that.
I did love
even
New
though
Mutants.
they set up for a sequel.
Yeah.
And that's okay because at least we got a finished film. And we didn't need to have a hint that Wolverine was in it or that Xavier was somehow, talking to them.
Right.
We didn't need that. We had a good movie, good characters, and that's all I want.
Yeah, I love the New Mutants movie. I have a New Mutants movie poster because when it was supposed to come out, like 3 years before it finally came out, they had actually like sent out the marketing to the theaters. And at the time, I knew a manager at the theaters, and I was able to get one of the ones that's like for 3 years before the movie actually came out.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is pretty cool, and I love that movie. And it's a great point that is a perfect example of a movie that we didn't need all that connective tissue. We didn't need, like you said, it turns out Xavier's been whispering in their heads the whole time.
It didn't need to feel like a mutant movie, like an X-Men movie or anything like that. It had its own feel, kind of like with Doctor Strange, it still felt like a Marvel movie. Whereas if Sam Raimi directed Doctor Strange, I really felt like it was going to feel, maybe a little bit more, but it still felt like a Marvel movie. And you know why? Because that's their formula. It works. And why would you change it? I'm a big football fan. I'm wearing my Bears hat. And you hear this all the time.
And your Bears shirt.
And you hear this all the time whenever, teams are driving the ball down the field. Or, you hear this in basketball all the time. Keep running it until they stop it.
That's right.
And, the same thing with marketing. You keep running that until it doesn't work anymore. So
right.
I would never blame Marvel for why I'm not, it has that feel to it. That's just their feel. And they should be proud of it because, it takes skill to get all these properties under one umbrella.
For sure.
And feel like, hey, this is the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
But see, I think that's part of the problem is that they're just spreading themselves too thin. I mean, the key behind this whole thing was Kevin Feige. It always has been Kevin Feige, and it always will be. But, 5, 6, 7 years ago, Kevin Feige was running around like a chicken with his head cut off. And he was saying in interviews then, like, this is exhausting, guys. I barely sleep. I barely get to do anything. And now you add to that all of these new things. You have all these Disney Plus series. And, again, we go from 2 movies a year to 3, 4, 5 movies a year. Mm-hmm. And I think he just isn't able to have that creative hand in there the way he used to. So his answer to that was basically making an outline. And going, well, here's these 5 things, and then he just hands that over, and at the end reviews and make sure that they were in those 5 parameters, and as long as they were, then put it out. Mm-hmm. And regardless of how good it is or what I think, or because I don't got time, and I don't blame him too, because the fact of the matter is he probably wants to spend more time focusing on the things he really wants to, see. So, for instance, if he's a big, huge Wolverine fan, then I understand him spending more time being creative in that but again, he's just it's just been spread so thin now, and then and the thing that I really dislike the most about it is, again, we end up just like you brought up yesterday with the Black Adam trailer. We end up getting, are we gonna do Dr. Fate justice? Mm-hmm. Are we gonna do Hawkman justice, or
are they there
jobbing them? We just throwing them in so we can show how cool and strong.
And it creates buzz with a trailer too, because now all of a sudden we're talking about Dr. Fate, and Dr. Fate's in this movie, and how much is he going to be in? Which Dr. Fate is it? And now you got all this built-in buzz because you showed us a character quickly in a movie,
right? In a trailer, and we don't know. For all we know, it's a 2-minute scene. Mm-hmm. It's just that one scene we seen where they try to contain him, and it may be just that. But if so, again, what is his purpose served only just to prove that Black Adam is so big and strong? Because if so, I mean, that's not really a great purpose to serve when you have a really good character like Dr. Fate.
You're shorting out the character, and I think that why it kind of bothers me with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, some of these pitfalls that they're falling into, is because they are identical pitfalls that the Marvel Comics industry has already dealt with.
Right.
And what's happening with Kevin Feige and, like you're saying, being spread too thin and creating these outlines, this is something similar that happened with comics in the 90s with Marvel, is where they had all these big events planned, whether it's Wolverine having his adamantium pulled out of it.
Right. Well, I have that comic.
There you go. Well, if you have that comic, you know that you have part 4 of it.
Yeah,
part
for sure.
3 is in X-Men, part 4 is in Wolverine, then you got this one in X-Force. So what happened was that in the 90s, instead of the writer being the main driving force of these series, it became the editor. And the editor would go into a meeting with these other editors, the editor of Wolverine, the editor of X-Men, the editor of Avengers, whatever. It's like, okay, how is this going to all connect?
Oh, wow.
Okay, so now we got this idea. Now we're going to go back to the writer. Okay, now you work this in. And so the writer, instead of just being creative, an artist, and they're having to plug in these things.
And then as a fan, you just want you don't give a damn about Daredevil. You want your Wolverine series, but then all of a sudden it's like, wait, do you want to see him lose his adamantium or not? Because if so, you gotta buy a Daredevil comic now. And that's back to what we were talking about it being so connected that we have to go do and see these other things, and we definitely don't want to be in a place where we feel that way. This is what's so great about Black Panther is I watch it, and it's a movie. It's its own thing. You could take away completely. You can just say this is a dude from a country. There's no Hulk in this world, or Spider-Man, or no superheroes, or anything. You could even say he doesn't have powers. He's just like Batman in a way, but with a Panther suit. And that movie is great, and it doesn't need all those things. I think a lot of times we suffer. I bring it up all the time. I'll watch Avenger or Spider-Man or something with my mother or with my wife, and something big will start happening downtown, and there's all these, robots attacking people and stuff, and Spider-Man's flipping around trying to help him and stuff, and then my mom looks over and she's like, well, where's Thor? And that's a great question, and that's
Asgard.
that's the problem when you have it's so connected sometimes, and that's why back to on the subject of New Mutants that I kind of wish Fox was able to
still do their thing.
And keep it separate, because as cool as it's gonna be, that I'm sure we will get one day a Wolverine introduced into the MCU where he fights Hulk, like the first comic that he's introduced, and I'm sure it'll be awesome and it'll be cool. But it's just, I don't know. I think having them separate and keeping them in their own kind of things kept this certain feel to them. Like the Fox X-Men movies have their own feel to them. They feel a certain way, and then the MCU is just completely different from that. And I would like them to be able to be separate things, and I fear that they will become like the MCU. These things like even Deadpool 3, which I'm super excited about and definitely looking forward to. But I fear that it, I years ago, I feared that they wouldn't let them make it rated R. I mean, it's Disney that we're talking about. And there was no guarantee of that. And then we finally get that guarantee, and it's like, yeah, they're going to let them rated R, but how much? And, Ryan Reynolds has been on records saying that Marvel hasn't said one thing. They've sent their notes in every time, and every single time Marvel just says, "Look good to us, good to go." So that's good to hear. But again, how will it feel continuity wise? Because when we were watching Deadpool, even though we knew it was in that X-Men universe, we still never felt that feeling like, well, where's Magneto? Where's the X-Men? We didn't care because it was such a good movie. And again, back to the winning cures everything. And I think at the end of the day, back on the topic of Black Panther, I think that's all they got to do. I want to see him honor Chadwick Boseman. I want to see a good movie that's its own contained thing. That's not. It doesn't feel like they're trying to use it to set up all these other things. I don't want to see that, and that's what I loved about the first Black Panther, and that's what I know you'll like about it. But at the end of the day, I'm super excited about it. We'll definitely go check it out in theaters. Let us know, guys, down in the comment section what you guys think about the new Black Panther 2 trailer. It just came out.
We do have some questions.
Sweet. Well, let's go over and take a couple of questions from the comment section.
I don't know if you want to say it on the air, but I just got logged out of your laptop and don't have the pin.
Okay, that's cool.
You want to just mute your mic real quick?
Yes.
1 second. Okay. We're back there. Thank you, everyone. Well, let's see what we got today. We actually had a lot of chat going on. I didn't stay active like I meant to. But let's see here. Noah asks you to keep his wife's name out of your mouth.
I'm guessing that's Will Smith.
Yeah. Let's see here. No one wants to know who's in the Black Panther suit then.
Okay, so it seems pretty obvious that Shuri is going to be the new Black Panther. So we thought that from the first trailer, even though we didn't really get a good shot of it. We kind of see a hand hit the floor, and it looks kind of feminine. Looks like a skinnier body. The thing is, I love Letitia Wright, the actress that plays Shuri, and I think that there's a comic, if I believe, Shane, you probably have more info on this, where Shuri becomes the Black Panther,
true.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay, so it's going along with the story, as it makes sense that Shuri would be the new Black Panther. It does bode the question that what happened in the 5 years after the snap, when T'Challa was snapped and Shuri was snapped, who was Black Panther or King of Wakanda in those 5 years, is still a question that is unanswered and may honestly never be answered. But yeah, in the shots of M'Baku in the trailer when he's like describing Black Panther, he's like, they call him the Huaclucahua or whatever. That's great. I love that stuff, man. It's really good looking. But yeah, it's safe to say that it's Shuri in the Black Panther suit. That's for sure.
Well, Lily Ali would like to know, what do you think Will Smith's best performance is?
Ooh, okay. Well, I'll give you two things. I'll give you my favorite Will Smith movie.
Okay.
And I'll give you the performance I think Will Smith gave the best in. So, my favorite Will Smith movie, and don't hate me for this, it's got to be the iRobot movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I love sci-fi. I love all things like that. And honestly, that movie I think receives a lot of hate for no reason. I think it was a good movie. I mean, it was a time when CG maybe isn't all that it is today, but it's still, when I was young, I was probably maybe 14 when I seen it. And oh God, it was just so awesome. It was so cool. And it's what stands out to me if we're going movies. Obviously, if not, it's The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Okay. I mean, he is the Fresh Prince. I mean, like we were talking about earlier, we all want to be the Fresh Prince, you know? So I love that. But best performance, man, I wanted to say Ali, but I'm going to go with another thing that I think is a little divisive, and I think you'll combat me on, which is I Am Legend. It's not maybe the greatest movie ever made, but God, it's one hell of a performance. That's for sure. What do you think, Shane? What's your opinion?
You know, that's a great point. I loved your best of, because like greatest and favorites obviously completely different.
For sure.
I want to say Ali too. I mean, he's performing a actual historical person. We can take a look at Muhammad Ali right now videos and compare the performance.
And he got in great shape for that movie.
Yeah, right.
I mean, he put in the work.
No kidding. Yeah, and also that's an amazing movie. You know, Michael Mann.
It is.
I love the editing in that movie, and I didn't really care for I Am Legend, but you are right. His performance, but you know, when you're talking about you got to carry a movie pretty much solo.
Yeah, for at least like the beginning 40, 50 minutes.
Right.
And
I mean, that really shows.
I mean, even just like, you know, I recently went back and rewatched it, and I told you that straight out that it doesn't hold up because of the CG. Mm-hmm. And it's so funny because, again, when we see that as a 15-year-old, I'm like, this is all real. It's so cool. But now it's like those little creature things. It all just looks so old now. And it's too bad because we'd get to those moments where we would be with Will Smith and his dog at the house.
Oh, yeah, that's the best stuff.
Yeah. And you're just getting this. There's just so much character and it's so character and story driven and you, again, it's just such a good performance. I agree that it's maybe not the greatest movie, but God, it's one hell of a performance. Now I do believe that he was nominated for an Academy Award for Ali, though.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so Ali may be his better performance in the eyes of most people, probably. So,
and I would definitely say my favorite, and it'll always be my favorite because when I saw it, I think it came out in '95, so I was 12 years old, and that was Men in Black. You know, I mean, I saw the movie like 3 times in the theater. I bought it as soon as it came out. I had the soundtrack album. I was, you know, his Men in Black song. You know, I had that jamming all summer long. I mean,
first I was afraid.
Yeah, right. And you know that it was again sci-fi. It was fun, but it was also heavily reliant on Will Smith's performance too. So you know, even when I watch it today, it still holds up so well because he comes in as us, overwhelmed and has to deal with this, but through it all, you know, he's got that charm, he's got that humor, and it's just, you know, such a killer movie.
It really is a good movie. I completely and you know what? It's one of those movies that when sequels had him in it, as clearly they're not as great as movies, but yeah, I still enjoyed them.
You know, I did not like Men in Black 3, and I liked Jermaine Clements. I think that's the villain's name. And God, what's his Josh Brolin.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
love
so
Josh
the cast
Brolin. Yeah,
is amazing.
Yep.
But I remember just thinking, God, this movie's a turd. But I got to tell you, I watched the whole thing, and that if I think a movie's a turd, if I watch the whole thing, it's probably because the performances in it were just, you know, too good to turn off.
Well, him and what's his name that plays counter to him in Men in Black?
And Tommy Lee Jones?
Yeah, to him and Tommy Lee Jones play so great off of each other too. Yeah, I mean, it really is good. I could totally see it being. I mean, I forgot about it. It might be my favorite Will Smith movie. But man, I'll tell you, I'm a huge fan of iRobot. Noah in the comment section, I see he was saying Hancock. Hancock, how do we forget Hancock?
Yeah, superhero.
Hancock
movie.
is great. Yeah. I mean, Hancock's again one of those movies that I think doesn't get enough love and appreciation. And it was before there were what I would call.
I think that's probably why it doesn't get as much love. It came out like 2008.
Yeah, it was before its time.
Whenever,
yeah, it was really before what I would call this comic book era that we're in. And man, it was right around that time that Chronicle came out too. And see, that was another example of, you know, yeah, exactly. It was just too far. If those movies come out now, they're like billion-dollar movies,
or
you know,
or even like 2015, 2016.
Yes, right. Yeah, Hancock in 2017.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
or Chronicle.
Right.
It makes sense.
No
People would
doubt.
be like, oh, I get this.
Right. I mean, Chronicle had Michael B. Jordan in it. I mean, and no one even knew who he was then. So,
right.
Right. So yeah, it's a good one. I love Hancock a lot. It's a good one to say too. So, what other questions do we got, Shane?
All right, we got what is your favorite and least favorite MCU and why?
Okay, so if we're talking movies, then my least favorite movie is The Eternals. I didn't hate the Eternals. I did walk out of it the first time I watched it after about 20 or 30 minutes, but I wasn't having the greatest theater experience either. So, and that may have overall played into my overall feelings about the Eternals too. I won't deny that, but it just wasn't that great of a movie. If we're talking about Marvel Disney Plus series, that's simple. Hawkeye, terrible. That's one of the worst things that I've ever wasted my time staying up till 2 a.m. for every week to watch. It has some really great moments, some really good character moments with Jeremy Renner. The best moments of Hawkeye are the stuff like you'll see him fight and stuff. You'll love this, Shane. You'll see him fight and stuff, and then he'll go home because he's just Hawkeye. You know, he's not.
Yeah, he's not a real superhero.
He'll go home and he's like taping frozen peas to his, because he's hurt. And he's like on the couch, like, ugh, he can barely move and stuff. And it was those moments that I really enjoyed about Hawkeye. Seeing, again, it's those character-driven moments. Seeing what happens, when this guy goes home, like what he has to deal with. Because all we see is, here's Hawkeye, save the day, yay! And Hawkeye's gone. And now what happens when Hawkeye's home? I assume that he just like sleeps like a baby and everything's cool. But it makes so much sense that, he's swollen, he's bruised, he's sore, and just
consequences.
Yeah, and just seeing that kind of stuff I loved a lot in Hawkeye, but it was few and far between. There just wasn't enough of it. It was too much Kate Bishop, and that character just wasn't likable. My favorite MCU show, probably favorite MCU overall, show or movie, has got to be WandaVision. I really liked WandaVision, man. Like, I think WandaVision, when it comes to these kind of things, IP television shows, it's up there. I mean, I still think that Twin Peaks season 3 is probably the best season of television that's ever been made. But I wouldn't categorize that in this same thing. So when it comes to like these comic book movies, though, I mean, and I'm talking about a lot of stuff here. I love The Boys. The Boys is great. I love Umbrella Academy. I love Lucifer.
Happy.
Happy? Oh man. Oh, I love Happy. I mean, I like a lot of these things. A Sandman recently came out, and I really, really liked Sandman. But even then, I would still say that WandaVision is right there up at the top of the. I mean, there may be a couple things that are close to it, but God, it was just so good. It kept me chomping at the bit. Like I said, those weeks that we were waiting for WandaVision to come out, every day I was just thinking about it. I was rewatching them. I'm slowing down stuff. I'm doing everything I can to learn more. And then and I'm texting everyone in the group chat like, hey, you guys think of anything new? You guys watch it again? Let's meet up a couple of days before so we can talk about it. And we would have to do those things because it was just so good. And as we always say, movies and television are experiential events, are experiential things. And to be able to enjoy it, to be able to get you and Shanna to come over, to be able to get, my buddy Ivan to come over, Ivan, and these people that normally probably wouldn't come and maybe even wouldn't enjoy this show. Not only did they all come, but they all felt pretty much like I did. Like, wow, man, this is good, and I can't wait to see the next one. And so it's real high up there. I got to say that it's definitely my highest. Shane, I know you haven't seen all of the new Marvel series and movies, but of what you've seen, what's your favorite, least favorite, and what's your most favorite?
You can tell by my answers how long it's been. Off the wagon.
I feel like Captain America Winter Soldier coming in here.
Honestly, I'm going to have to go with Age of Ultron as the worst.
Okay.
Because I think that's the one that was like, nope, I'm out of here. See you guys. I want no part of you. And if we're talking about MCU specifically, probably favorite, I don't know, Winter Soldier. Or Iron Man 1. That was really good. I would have to say my favorite comic book movie going experience, like the one comic book movie that I teared up, I stood up and hooray whenever things happened, were Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2. That was probably my favorite movie-going superhero experience.
Which is still one of the best comic book movies
It's
ever
still pretty
made
good.
today.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really is. It really is. It holds up great. I love that movie. Now, for me, I didn't get to experience that the way you probably did. You probably seen it out in theaters and stuff like that. I think I seen it at the drive-in, which was an experience of its own.
Yeah.
But it was a real hard to see a lot of the stuff. It was just, especially back then, the projectors were.
Did you at least have the radio volume?
Yeah. Yes.
Because when I was growing up, you had
those were there
the
too.
speakers.
Now they've took those away.
Thank God.
They're just like, you gotta have a radio if you're coming
No
here.
kidding, right? I can understand 1950s drive-through, having
Sure.
a speaker. Sound wasn't
Sure.
that big of a deal.
Right.
But nowadays, come on.
Right. I agree. It's just kind of nostalgic and cool to see. That's for sure. But yeah, do we have any other questions?
I'm not seeing any other questions.
Okay,
I think
see
that's
Noah
it.
mentioned in the comments that we did have a lot of conversations, quote, heated, he said, about whether or not it would be R-rated. He's talking about Deadpool. And we did. And the fact of the matter is it wasn't going to be R-rated. When it first had like came to terms with the fact that they were going to make a third one, it was Adam Horn, what's his name? Bob Chapek wasn't at Disney. He wasn't running Disney. So you have a different guy in there making different decisions, and he's a business guy. So his decisions are all purely based on what? Money. And so what's going to make more money, Shane? A PG-13 Deadpool 3 or an R-rated Deadpool 3?
Obviously a PG-13 Deadpool 3 because you kids can go without their parents, obviously.
Right. But at the end of the day, what we know Deadpool as is this R-rated thing. Mm-hmm. So Deadpool is kind of, we've already had two of them. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of already known that this isn't a PG-13 thing.
I think Disney's one of those companies that's not going to mess with a formula.
I agree.
Deadpool 1 already made all this money. Deadpool 2
made
already
even more
to be super successful at these R ratings. So why are they going to change with the formula? And also I think Disney at the end of the day probably doesn't care about R rating versus G rating because I got to say that I think I'm more traumatized by Bambi's mom dying or one of the other Pixar deaths in these movies than I would be about some F words.
Right. Yeah. I agree. But at the end of the day, things changed when, like I said, when they first acquired Fox and they first got those things. I mean, the question at first was, would they even make another Deadpool movie? Because there was no guarantee that they were going to do such a thing, even with the successes of it. Because and Noah, if you're watching, I told you that at the end of the day, Disney is associated with family first, and it always will be. And so when I have a daughter, and we will always have Disney Plus. And this is what I told you 3 or 4 years ago, Shane, before Disney Plus came out, for that app was existent. I said, when that app drops, Shane, it's over.
Yep.
Like theatrical movies, Blu-rays, every single thing that we know and love is going to start just slowly dropping. And this is a perfect example of how, like Netflix keeps its subscribers, because it has millions of more subscribers than HBO Max and Apple TV. Longer. Well, it's not only that, but Netflix is kind of this hub. They're doing that thing that you were talking about with Roger Corman, where you're just
constantly
shitting out new shit so much. And so no one else is doing that. No one's throwing money at stuff
They're also doing this shitty thing with Netflix that I'm kind of getting tired of, is they'll have a successful show and then they'll delay the hell out of it. I've been waiting on Dead to Me for what now? 3 years, 2 years? It's just like, just give me the next season. You said it's coming. When is it?
I mean, even Stranger Things, whatever
kidding,
we're at.
right?
Like, it felt like that was years later. I feel like next time we see that thing, those dudes are going to be like 34. Like, what up, man? And just completely different humans. And I don't really understand that very much. But yeah. And yeah, he also mentioned that I did walk 2.5 miles home after I left Eternals. That's how unsatisfied I was with the movie. But I did recently buy an Eternals collectible that you can't quite see in this angle. It's over here in the corner right there. And it's pretty cool. Came with Thena's what do you call it, tiara,
Yeah,
and the Black
headdress,
Knight's
yeah.
ring, and, which is really
Pretty
cool.
cool.
I like the Black Knight. So yeah, but not a big fan of the Eternals. So it looks like. Oh, and he also did mention that we were all just looking for Mephisto during WandaVision, and it's not those kind of things on that topic that like kind of have carried on. You know, we're expecting, and now it's that way with X-Men. Like every series, we're like, okay, they're gonna. This is where they're gonna introduce the X-Men or an X-Men or somebody from or a mutant or this. And another thing we didn't talk about, Shane, why I can remember it too, is and I know you have a lot more comic knowledge than me because you once ran a comic book shop, but correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't Namor? Dang, I lost my train of thought.
Okay.
I can't remember.
Okay.
But anyways,
Hey, that's all right. One thing I wanted to say.
oh
real
yeah, I
quick.
remember.
Okay.
What wasn't Namor a mutant?
Yes, he is technically the first mutant.
Like the very
very first mutant.
so help me understand this because again I don't have a ton of comic book knowledge, but from what I've seen, I watched the Age of Apocalypse movie, and what I remember from that wasn't Apocalypse the first mutant.
Oh, yeah, that is true. I mean, because he existed. The thing is, once you... yeah, even Marvel's history is... Because you're absolutely right, because you have Apocalypse. He's lived since the Egyptian age,
Right.
Right? But Namor is known
Okay,
as
so
the first
so I
mutant.
see he's
So
the
maybe
most
the
first like modern.
modern.
mutant. I
There you go.
see.
There
I
you
see.
go.
That makes a lot more sense. More sense. Awesome.
One thing I want to say just real quick, because
Cool.
you were talking about this, were these expectations. You were looking for Mephisto the whole time. I think this is kind of where this whole marketing and then filmmaking is getting to a slippery slope, because one thing that when I was in film school and we learned were about expectations, and expectations are great because you're building something up for the viewers. And what you do is you either deliver the expectations, and that gives you a feel-good feeling, or you counter the expectations. So all of a sudden, it's like, oh, it's a twist ending. So those are pretty much your two things. So now we're in this thing where instead of the movie creating the expectation, so you go in, you sit and watch, and now like, okay, this is what I'm expecting. And now the movie can either deliver on that or it can counterpoint to that.
Right.
Now the expectations are being created during the trailer.
Right.
And then during Twitter announcements, or during someone took a screenshot during one of their set visits, and all of a sudden there's a helmet of Ant-Man, and
Right.
Ant-Man going to be in this movie. So now all of a sudden we're coming in with all these expectations, and I think that's what's hurting a lot of people's enjoyment of these movies, because if you go in with no expectations, I think movies are more enjoyable that way.
Awesome. And we did miss one question that I'm going to let you answer, Shane.
Okay.
Mad Making Mind Productions asks, what's the most underrated Coolio song?
Most underrated. God, I mean, if it's underrated, I probably don't even know it. I only know his radio hits. Honestly, I was more that mid '90s, so I was into the, of course, the Gangster's Paradise, and then of course the Let Me Ride, Ride the Train, is that what it's called, or whatever.
I mean, it's all Gangster's Paradise is the best Coolio, right?
But you can't say that's underrated, right?
No, it's definitely not underrated.
How about I say one of the most underrated songs is Weird Al's Amish Paradise?
Amish Paradise.
Which is also, both of those are a cover of Stevie Wonder. If you guys haven't heard Stevie Wonder's, what is it called? Something Paradise, because they're all Paradise.
Right,
That's
sure.
what the song's based on. All three of those are great, and we should all listen to those to celebrate Coolio's.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, well, we're just glad that we're going to have him in Futurama. I'm just glad we're getting Futurama. I always remember when they rebooted Futurama, like, I want to say I was in high school, like
2010, 2012?
yeah, like,
that sounds about right.
Yeah, and it
But it wasn't really a series, though.
No, it was like a
bunch of
limited
movies?
series, or it was like so many episodes.
Maybe
or
that's
something.
what it was. So they've done this a few times. There was
Yeah.
one point where they came out with like 3 or 4 movies, and they were like an hour long, and that's all we got. And then they came out and did like a season, but it was only like 10
Right.
episodes.
See, that's what I remember. Yeah.
So they've kind of brought it back several different ways, and it just hasn't caught on again. But people out there, are still dedicated to this show, and I think it's wise to bring
Well,
it
real
back.
quick before we get out of here, Shane, who's your favorite Futurama character?
Fry? Bender?
Right,
I
yeah,
mean,
it's Bender for me.
Bender
I'm a
you.
Bender
It's
guy.
easy to say Bender, but damn, Fry. Honestly, before we go, let me tell a Futurama story
Okay,
because
cool.
this will
Let's do it.
probably never happen again. I was in college, and at the time, I was rooming with my buddy. His name is Joden, and we were living in this one-bedroom apartment, and I let him have the bedroom so I could have the rest of the house. I thought it was a good deal at the time, but, he actually had privacy, and I didn't. And so this guy, he didn't have any furniture. He had a mattress bed and a really small
Classic
armchair.
college.
Right, absolutely. And a TV, CRT. We're talking about CRT age. And so he has this CRT, and he's sitting in his room on his reclinable chair, and he's watching Futurama by himself in his boxers in the dark. And he gets to this episode where Fry checks his bank account, and it turns out he's like this billionaire.
Oh, yeah, I love
Yeah.
that episode because he's so old that
Yeah.
it's just been accumulating.
On
Yeah.
interest. And one of the things he buys is all these
Brilliant
episodes
writing.
on VHS, and it was like
Oh, yeah.
super expensive
Oh, yeah.
because VHS
Because
were
they're all
rare.
out.
Yeah.
I remember the whole episode. Yeah.
So at this point, he's completely alienated all his friends, and he's buying.
Yep.
So it's like, well, I don't need anyone to enjoy my VHS tapes or whatever. So he's at home watching these old shows in a recliner, in his underwear, in the dark, and that's when Jordan was like, "Oh my God, One of my very favorite stories. Still call him Fry to this
I've
day.
become Fry. I
I've
didn't
become
even know.
Fry.
I'm literally living I'm a live action Fry. That's got to be a scary moment to have happen. Like as in sync, like you're coming over, you both sit down.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Well, man, it's been great as it always has been. I appreciate everyone showing up. We appreciate all the love in the chat, the super chats that we got from Lily. Thank you, Lily, for the super chats and all the questions, guys. It's always fun to interact with you. That's the funnest part of the show for sure. But again, thanks for joining me today. I was joined today, of course, by my co-host Shane Wallace. Shane, it's been an awesome honor and privilege today, buddy.
A lot of fun.
For sure. So come back tomorrow, guys, and see us. We'll be here 10 a.m. Hopefully, all is well. Hopefully, mics sound good, cameras look good, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. So have a good one, guys. Thanks for joining us.